India has certain unique advantages which many of the other emerging market peers or the Asian peers don't have. First of all, the biggest turmoil in this region arises from China. China is slowing down rapidly, the stock market is in turmoil over there, but India has a relatively low linkage compared to the North Asian peers or the South Asian peers to China. Our net exports to China are hardly about 6% of the export basket, even though there are some indirect linkages also. We do export raw materials to Latin America, for example, which again depend on Chinese demand. But even taking into account those effects, India is relatively isolated. On top of that, when China goes down, commodity prices go down. That helps Indian current account deficit, fiscal deficit, and inflation. That's the second round of advantage that India has. So, on a relative basis, India does stand out as as kind of an island. Having said that, I must stress also on that word relative basis. When you do have a situation where risk assets flow back to the low-risk safe havens like the United States, India will not be immune from that effect. There's no way one can argue with that. But, I think still on a relative basis, India would possibly do better.
Markets celebrated on Friday the fact that Fed has not moved, but the Fed will move. It could be December, it could be Jan. So I wonder what the relief rally was all about.
Right. You see, our own point of view about this is that the Fed would hike rates sometime in December. We are attaching a 60% probability to this. In fact, in a sense, if you look at how the US markets behaved and how the emerging markets behaved, there was a sea of difference between them. The US markets went down. They actually took this phenomenon of Fed not hiking rates and Fed sounding even more dovish negatively because they felt it was not a reaffirmation of the growth stability that's sort of coming through in the United States. Emerging markets did rally. Emerging currencies rallied possibly even harder. And I think, in a sense, it might have been better if the Fed had hiked or at least sounded more certain about it, because then this uncertainty, which is hanging like a sword over emerging markets, would have gone away. Now, this uncertainty remains. I think the reason why Fed deterred was the turmoil in emerging markets, particularly in China. After all, that's the 800-pound gorilla sitting here. I don't think it's got that much to do with US slowdown, because I think the growth stability in the US is still kind of intact. So yes, almost certainly the Fed rate hike is going to happen at some point of time. But given the fact that this is not a case of inflation combating, it's unlikely to have the kind of impact that we've seen in the past 3 instances over the past 25 years. So we think that even though we might see a spike in VIX and other risk parameters, it is unlikely to lead to a sustained downturn or sustained capital outflow from the emerging markets.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.